Intrigues and power play as World Trade Organization sets November 9, 2020 for announcement of new DG, just as the IMF says Sub-Saharan Africa will see its worst contraction on record this year. Trade in manufactured goods decline in second quarter of 2020. Power generation peaks. Tariffs set to go up next week. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Consumers' overall outlook was negative in the third quarter of 2020 as consumers were pessimistic in their outlook. The Central Bank of Nigeria's Consumer Expectation Survey report showed that consumers have a positive outlook for the next quarter and the next 12 months. Majority of consumers believe that the next 12 months would not be an ideal time to purchase big-ticket items like motor vehicles and houses. The report also finds that most respondents expected the naira to appreciate, inflation rate to rise, and borrowing rates to rise in the next 12 months. The major drivers of the expected upward movement in prices are savings, purchase of car, motor vehicle, purchase of appliances, consumer durables, education, food, and other household needs, as well as purchase of houses. The global pandemic has put intense pressure on economies across sub-Saharan Africa, and many governments are struggling to maintain macroeconomic stability while also meeting the basic needs of their populations. Papa Ndiaye heads the IMF's economic outlook for the region. In a podcast this Friday, he says sub-Saharan Africa's economy will see its worst contraction on record this year, bringing real per capita incomes back to 2013 levels. The fund, in its October World Economic Outlook, puts the region's growth for 2020 at 3%. However, tensions and unrest, coupled with a second wave of lockdowns, are posing risks to the already fragile economy. Nigeria imported manufactured goods is worth 2.78 trillion naira, while the total export component was 254.2 billion naira between April and June. Figures obtained from the National Bureau of Statistics on foreign trade statistics for the second quarter of 2020 show that this amounts to a difference of 2.52 trillion naira in the period under review. The NBS stated that the value of manufactured goods trade in the second quarter of 2020 stood at 3.04 trillion naira. Nigeria will continue to engage relevant stakeholders to ensure that the lofty aspiration of her candidate, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, to lead the World Trade Organization is realized. This is the position of Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs as part of reactions trailing the election of a Director General for the World Trade Organization. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday reports.
The ministry said although Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is yet to be declared the winner, despite her cross-regional support and adoption by the panel, especially as a result of the objection of the United States that in accordance with the rule of procedure of the World Trade Body, winner will have to emerge from a consensus, of which the General Council has scheduled a meeting for November 9. Reacting to the developments, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala in a tweet said she so far happy for her success and continued progress of her bid, adding that she is very humble to be declared the candidate with the largest and broadest supports among members and most likely to attract consensus.
The members choose on merit from all the candidates. So I don't think it's a divide. And of course, I'm the candidate that is chosen and is backed because I think I have the qualifications and the leadership characteristics to do the job.
The front-runner said the organization moved to November 9, which will be about 7 days after the U.S. election. Despite the hiccups, it is still keeping the positivity going.
Okay, I have Ambassador Ayo Olukami. He is a career diplomat who once served in the Nigerian mission to the United Nations in New York, was former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Australia. He is now serving as Director General of the Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NATIMA, and joins me to look at the issues around the recent development that stalled the initial plan to announce Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as the DG of WTO. You're welcome to Business Express. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. Up until 3 p.m. on Wednesday in Nigeria, a lot of people were still hopeful that the WTO will announce Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as its new DG, but that was not to be. Did that particular action by the U.S. come to you as a surprise?
Well, first, let me say that the WTO went searching and found a very good candidate in Dr. Iweala. I think we can sum it up in that way. But there are procedures in terms of finalization of the appointment of a new DG for the DQ, and I think this is what we have seen in terms of waiting for November 9th for the final announcement. And I'm sure and hope that will come, on that particular date.
Looking at her support base, she got all the support necessary, though we understand, looking at these procedures you've mentioned, there is need for consensus by all members, talking about the 164 members for her to come through as the winner at the end of the day. But putting that in mind also, we saw how Dr. Akinwumi, the struggle he went through before he emerged as the president of the African Development Bank. Does that mean, should it give us concerns about does the world have concerns about Nigerians becoming global leaders or what?
I don't think we should have concerns about that. When international organizations are looking for people who handle their affairs, they look out for the best. But we must realize that in the world of international politics, in the world of the international organization, we do have procedures and issues like this. And also contending issues in terms of aid. This is what we are seeing. And that was what we saw with Dr. Akinwumi additional, which essentially, of course, it came out clear that he was the best candidate, and whatever he was accused of, just too much. Now, the still issues as far as Dr. Iweala itself is concerned, that the procedures as far as the BHQ is concerned, the DG must emerge through consensus, and that is what we are seeing as far as this particular issue itself is concerned. And don't forget, there is perhaps only one country that is kicking against this appointment. And that's why we're saying that we must now continue all diplomatic démarches. And I'm indeed very glad that government has taken the issue on its own. To reach out to various parties. In terms of international relations, economic relations, diplomatic relations, a lot of things going on behind the headlines which we don't see. But the bottom line is that the government of Nigeria has realized it and ramped up diplomatic relations and diplomatic démarches in in this area. If I can speak as a member of the organized private sector in Nigeria, when this process also started, we had issued a statement to support Dr. Wiala as far as this is concerned. Because trade issue is key and very important for us as chambers of commerce, as all members of the organized private sector. Because the current pandemic which we are all facing, one of the strategic options of getting out of this crisis is trade. And that's why the WTO will serve as a multilateral trade organization is important. Secondly, I must also say that in starting of Dr. Mrs. Wiala, we have a round peg in a round hole in terms of trade, finance, and development issue. International development issue, she's been there. She was formerly of the World Bank, so she's seen it. She's one, she also knows where it pinches. But most importantly, the Doha rounds, as far as international trade negotiation is concerned, is key and very important. It's going to be one of the key issues the WTO is faced. And that's why you need somebody like her. And that was why those people were searching for a new DG. They already know her. The Troika, consisting of the member of the Council, the chair of the dispute resolution, as well as the chair of the policy review, all came together.
Okay, why we put this forward as some of her strengths, the argument the United States is also bringing forward is that the Korean counterpart, according to them, she's got 25 years of brokering deals, talking about trade deals. Her experience in that is much wider or deeper than that of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Do you see that playing against us? How true is that?
The Korean candidate may also have that, but Mrs. Iweala has that. But beyond that, we need to look at the WTO beyond that, because the question and issue now is that there's a development dimension to it. And of course, in current international financial and trade architecture, developing countries especially are at a lower end. And you need to bring, of course, members of the developing countries up and support them as far as international trade. If you give a good example, Africa just has 3% as far as trade issues concerned, international trade matters, participation in world trade. That is too low. We need to work on that. Now, let me say this. The COVID pandemic has taught all of us that, look, listen, we are all members of the human race. All of us are in the same world. We're in the same environment. And there is no doubt about that the inequality is too much, and we need to bring the section of the international trading arrangements at some members of the world, in different parts of the world, up as far as that is concerned. And I think that is going to be one of the agenda as far as Mrs. Iweala is concerned. And those people who are opposing this should know that it is their own interest. It is their own interest to raise up members of the developing world, the developing countries, and to be able to effectively participate. And that's why I'm saying that, indeed, the question of WTO, the agenda is beyond ordinary trade these days. It must be trade for development. And I think Mrs. Iweala fits the bill as far as this is concerned.
Okay.
The diplomatic demands continues. When you step forward and more pursued by November 9th, all obstacles on the way will have cleared, and Dr. Mrs. Iweala will emerge. Both are the first African, the first woman, and also a global citizen who also requires skills and is still training for that position will emerge.
Okay, then, considering all of that into play, some other fears is, again, some observers say the U.S. fears trade multilateralism with the emergence of Okonjo-Iweala. Do you agree with this? Because she's a proponent of that.
The UN is 75. And the thematic focus, the future we want, the UN we need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism. That is the thematic focus as far as the UN is concerned this year. So multilateralism will continue to be key and very important. And I'm sure sure that even if the U.S. is against that now, that is an existential reality for the UN as a member of the international community. So it is a strength for Mrs. Iweala. It is a strength for the rest of the world who are saying that multilateralism is the way out. As far as we should be concerned, there's no way about it. There's no come about. No come about that, if I may say.
Okay, thank you so very much, Ambassador Ayo Olukami, for sharing your thoughts on the matters at hand.
Thank you very much for having me. As you said, you hope by sometime next week, November 9th, we'll have our cause to be joyous. To say kudos and so that the work can begin for the new regime.
Sure, we look forward to that. Thank you very much. Moving on, Nigeria's power industry has again attained another all-time peak of 5,459.50 megawatts of electricity efficiently transmitted through the nation's transmission grid. A statement by the General Manager, Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Ndidi Mba, states that the milestone in generation is higher than any peak ever recorded in the nation's power industry. As at date, the new peak, TCN says, surpasses the 5,420.3 megawatts achieved in August 2020 by 39.2 megawatts. Acting Managing Director TCN Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz commends all players in the power sector value chain and attributes the gradual but steady improvement in the quantum of power delivery to collaboration by the sector players, as well as the unrestrained effort of the federal government through the Ministry of Power in setting the right environment for seamless operations. Still on, the federal government has approved the resumption of the collection of service-based electricity tariffs, the SBT, from next week. After sealing a deal with organized labor, the government had to suspend the implementation of the new electricity tariff regime in September following a threat of industrial unrest by the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, its affiliates and allies. The resolve of the federal government and organized labor is that tariffs for customers in A and B bands will be reduced by 10%. Then the tariff for C and customers was reduced by 30%. For customers in D and E bands, their tariffs remain frozen, which implies that there is no increment. The Special Advisor on Infrastructure to President Muhammadu Buhari, Ahmad Zakari, who confirmed this during the 51st Virtual Power Dialogue organized by Nigeria Electricity Hub in Abuja, noted that since Labour has accepted the new terms, the implementation will begin next week. The National Mass Metering Program, NMMP, this Friday commenced distribution of free electricity meters to Nigerians with simultaneous launch events of the scheme in Kano, Kaduna, Eko, and Ikeja Disco franchise areas, as well as the program was initiated by President Muhammadu Buhari to ensure mass metering with the hope of putting to an end the problem of estimated billing in the electricity sector. Nigerian stocks reached a 9-month high Wednesday, boosted by the consumer services industry. The market was closed Thursday for the Eid al-Maulud holiday, but resumed this morning on strong investor sentiment at the end of Friday's session, which is the last for the week and the month. The bulls wrapped up the last trading day on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as the NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 3.71% to close at 30,570.69 basis points, with market capitalization at 15.9 trillion naira. A total of 807.8 million shares valued at 10.5 billion naira exchanged hands in 8,113 deals at the end of the session. UBA, Access Bank, and FBN Holdings were the most sought after stocks. Asian stocks retreat as Americans go to polls. Bossy Able gives us a feel of markets across the globe.
European markets were mixed Friday as jitters over the upcoming U.S. election and tightening coronavirus restrictions across the continent weighed on sentiment. Asia-Pacific were lower on Friday as shares of Apple suppliers in the region declined after the Cupertino-based tech giant announced its fourth quarter earnings. Hang Seng Index finished its trading day negative by 1.95% lower at 24,107.42. Nikkei slipped 1.52% to close at 22,977.13, and the Shanghai Composite also declined 1.47% to 3,224.53. U.S. stock futures tumbled early Friday after some of the technology heavyweights came under pressure following their quarterly reports. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average pointed to an opening drop of 300 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures also traded in negative territory, while in Africa, stocks opened mixed, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Ghana's GSA Composite posting gains. Boss De Able, Business Express.
Could prices fall in the wake of another round of lockdowns? Let's see how the commodities market is faring this Friday. This is where we end this edition of Business Express, the last for the week and the month of October 2020. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns Monday. I am Benny Adams saying, stay safe.